Okay, so good morning, everybody. It's great to see a group of you joining us. We are here from the Champlain Valley School District, and our goal today is to answer some of the questions that students have. And rather than open this up to all of the students in our whole district, that would get a little crazy. We have a few students that are joining us, and those students represent a lot of our different grades from K to 8. So we have some questions that students have sent us, and these students are going to be the ones asking them, and they'll ask their own questions as well. And then we also have some adults from our school district helping us to answer those questions.
Hi everyone, I'm Mrs. Parks. I am a principal in Williston, and it's my pleasure to be here today.
Hi everybody, I'm Miss Selmer, and I am at Shelburne Community School as a pre-K4 principal.
And Ms. Townsend.
Hi everyone, great to see you. I'm Miss Townsend. I work at Charlotte Central School. I also work with many of the principals in the district to figure out how we can make our schools safe for all of you and taking care of your feelings. So welcome.
And Mrs. Bouvier.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Bouvier. I'm one of the school nurses at Shelburne Community School. You can see I'm wearing a mask because I'm at school right now and I'm working with the other school nurse, Kelly. My job, in addition to being the school nurse, is trying to think about how we can safely open schools in all of the CVSD schools. So I'm helping your principals and your school nurses do that.
Excellent, thank you. So now I'd love for the students to introduce yourselves. And remember what we said, we're going to just share our first name and our grade, but not any more information than that.
Yeah, I'm Alex, and I'm in 8th grade.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lee, and I'm also in 8th grade.
Excellent. And Drew?
I'm Drew, and I'm in 8th grade as well.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Lily, and in 8th grade also.
Okay, wow, we've got a bunch of 8th graders here. And then our younger students, some of you have joined us with your family's account. So I'm going to need you each to take turns because I don't know all of your first names. And just take turns and make sure you introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Theo, and I'm going into 3rd grade.
And I'm Iris, and I'm going into kindergarten.
Who else has not yet introduced yourself? Please do.
Hi, I'm Summer, and I'm going into 4th grade.
Perfect. Thank you. And I think there's one more.
Hi, my name is Michael. I'm going into 4th grade.
Terrific.
Okay, I think there's at least one more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my name's Ellie, and I'm also going into 8th grade.
Okay. Wow. Great. Thank you again for joining us. So we're going to start, and I'm going to just put it out there and see if you all have any questions. And then the adults will kind of on our own figure out who's the best one to answer those questions. Okay? You can raise your hand if you have a question.
Do we need to wear our mask during lunch and PE?
I'll take that one. So great question, Summer. It would be a little bit hard to wear your mask during lunch, right? So that's a great time for us to be taking our masks off. You'll be able to take your mask off while you eat for lunch and snack. And when you're at PE, we're going to do PE outside this year to start. So when we're exercising and our heart rate is up, we're going to take our masks off and make sure we stay apart from everybody. So you will be able, that's another place where you'll have a mask break. Sometimes if it's raining out, you might have PE inside, but it's going to look different. It's not going to be running around in the gym. It might be doing a class in your regular classroom that has to do with health and fitness.
Who else has a question?
I think Michael had a question that he was going to ask us.
Okay.
What is recess going to look like to me?
Recess going to be like? Great.
And I can start answering that one from a pre-K4 lens, and maybe Mrs. Parks can take us through a 3rd through 8th grade lens here. And it's going to look different in each school, so I will tell you that. And your teachers will give you a little bit more insight into what it will look like for your own class or your own grade level at your own school. But what you can expect so the preschool kids will be able to go on their playground, but only their playground. Nobody else will get to go on that one. All schools are going to have a slow start to reopening our playground structures, so they will be off limits for the first few weeks at least. And that is so that we can start establishing some other activities that we can do during recess when we get outside and get our mask breaks. And in our school, at Shelburne Community School, recess will be run by our PE teachers and our team paras. So they will get you out and about and doing some physical exercise, playing games that are a bit more structured. And so that's what it will look like in our building, but that might not look the same in all buildings and all grade levels. Mrs. Parks, do you want to add to that?
Sure. Sure. So at Williston Central, recess, kids will go out to recess at different times. It won't be kids from different teams out there all together. So each team will kind of have a time where they're out there, and then you could be interacting, with that group of kids like you are when you're in the classroom. You may have some designated locations that we ask you to stay in or use. And recess, some recesses might happen before lunch and some might happen after lunch. So we're working on that schedule right now, but we're going to be flexible about how we look at recess this year to make sure we can keep everyone in their own space, but giving you some nice outdoor time to be together.
And I can just add from many of the other schools, one thing you will notice that Ms. Parks mentioned are sort of those different locations and zones. So there might be areas where different cohorts and pods, so your little group will go to, and that's really to make sure all of you are safe and you're staying in your same group. Some of the other things that will most likely happen, and again, little different at every school, is that there'll be opportunities for hand sanitizing before and after. There'll also be opportunities to have one same entrance into the playground area and a different exit to the playground area. So thinking about how do we make sure all of you are safe and also enjoying our playgrounds when they do open up.
Lee?
I had a question. So say you're sick for a day. Would you have to quarantine after that for 2 weeks? If you're sick? I don't know how you're going to do it if you're sick for a day.
Good question.
That's a great question, Lee. So we are still working on that plan because as we know that kids get all kinds of sickness in a normal year, as do adults. So sometimes you have allergies that make your nose runny or make you sneeze. And sometimes you get strep throat or sometimes you get a tummy bug. So a lot of times we get sick and it's not COVID, right? And so when we get those normal illnesses, we don't have to quarantine for 14 days. We come back to school when we're feeling better. And so one thing that I'm working on with the school nurses, is to figure out that plan, because we wish we knew exactly when we could look at you, whether you had COVID or strep throat or an ear infection, but we have to kind of follow the process to figure those things out. So what we're going to do is we're going to work with your parents and your doctor and figure out what it might be that's making you sick. And if it is COVID, which it could be, it's probably pretty unlikely, but it's a possibility, then we would have to follow the guidance about quarantining. But if you just have allergies or you have a headache because you didn't drink enough water because you're wearing a mask, so you forgot to get all your sips in, that could happen. And then you go home, you get hydrated and you feel better and you come back. So each situation is going to be different, and we'll work with families and students to figure out when they're ready to come back. We want kids to be in school, but we also want kids to be safe. So we have to balance that.
This is related to Lee's. What if someone gets corona in this school? Will we have to shut down again?
That's another great question, and that's something we're still figuring out. So probably somebody will get COVID at some point in one of our schools. That's probably going to happen. Just knowing that this is what's going on in our communities. So our schools are just like our communities, and so it would probably happen. We probably won't have to close down the way we did in March, because now we have a lot more resources to help people know if they had it, or we know how to treat it, we know how to manage it. We've learned so much more than what we knew when we closed in March. So what we would probably do is we'd work with the Department of Health, because they're the experts on this, and they have little detectives. They're called contact tracers. And so they would come into our school and do a little detective work and figure out who had it, where did they get it from, where did they go? And they'll ask all those questions, and then they'll make a determination. So if they said, oh, you know what, this person actually probably got it from, they weren't in school and they got it from something outside of school, the likelihood that it's in our school is low, so we can keep our classrooms open while that person stays home and gets better. But if it turns out that that's not the case from their detective work, we'll follow their directions. So we hope that we wouldn't close the way we did in March, but we don't know for sure. So we have to follow what the detectives find.
So it's a possibility that some students and teachers might need to stay home in some cases, and others may not. It's not everyone doing the same thing this year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One thing we like to think about, Alex, is that because we know so much more about how to keep ourselves safe, we know ways to keep ourselves from getting sick. So we know that when you come into school and you wear your mask and you stay apart from other people and you wash your hands all day long, we know that just being in school with somebody else who has it doesn't mean that you're going to get it necessarily, because we are doing those layers of protection. So that's a reassuring thing that we didn't know necessarily in March.
I was wondering what's going to happen around the library and like checking out books and returning them.
I'm happy to talk a little bit about what that's going to look like in Williston, but I'm guessing it probably is going to be similar, where you likely will place an order kind of online for a book that you want by looking online electronically at what's available. And then the librarians will package that up and get that book to you. So you won't actually be coming in and out of the library, but the book, you'll be able to get books and exchange books. You'll have to do that looking electronically instead of looking at the actual books, though, in person for right now.
Are we going to be able to interact with like the other people in like the other classes of our house for any subjects or anything, or are we always going to have to be with our class?
I'm happy to take that one as well, Alex. So when you're here, Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday, you'll be here with a little bit less than half of the typical students, right? So, and then you're going to be spread out into either larger spaces or more classrooms. So there's fewer people close by in a space, so you can be socially distanced. There will be times where you have to interact or regroup within that smaller, 2 classroom cohort. So there will be some times where I'll use like 7th grade is having math and 8th grade is having humanities. There may be some times where a 7-8 mixture might have science together. So you will have some mixing in middle school because that's how with some of the classes we have them structured. Does that make sense? The younger students would not be doing that. The younger students would be mostly with the group that they come in with and stay with that teacher or stay with that group of kids, and the teachers would move around if they needed to mix that, have different teachers.
Ms. Selmer, would you agree with that?
Yes, I was nodding my head in agreement. Yep. So for our K-4 students, you will have no more than 12 students in what we call a cohort or a group in a classroom setting. Even though your full class might actually have 24 kids on the list of students in that group with that teacher, you want to be together. And once you're assigned to a classroom, you're staying with that classroom and those peers for the remainder of the time.
And one of the things I might just add is that we're using so much technology now, which is really exciting. So there might be opportunities for you to be in your classroom and then communicate through technology to another classroom. So again, thinking about how we can make you all have interactions and connections with each other, but in a way that's safe for everybody.
I was just in a meeting where we were talking about that, particularly where students could come together for a club remotely. So students from across the middle school might come together for a club on maybe on a Wednesday. And so you'll still have some access to other friends from other teams, or even the other half of your team in some of those other sort of settings.
And to add to that, also, we're in the building 2 days a week, but we're also going to meet with you remotely, virtually 3 days a week. So we have opportunities to connect with those other kids as well.
I was wondering if I could like sit like on the bus with my sister.
Theo, I'm happy to answer that question. Yes, absolutely. But the bus is going to look a little different because we need to have space between you and your friends on the school bus. And so we may have a situation where it's every other, you may have an assigned seat, but we're hoping that siblings can certainly sit together because you're part of your own family pod, right? You're part of your own family cohort.
Iris, do you have a question?
Can I go down with my brother to my classroom?
Are you asking if he can walk you to your classroom?
Yeah.
I can answer that. And we're saying, unfortunately, no. We're going to have other adults in the hallways to help get you to class, but we can't have our siblings walk us to class because we need them to get to their own class. So when you get off the bus or you get dropped off at school, you are going directly to your own classroom. And we will absolutely have a lot of friendly faces with masks on to help you get to your right classroom.
So when we get into school, just on like the in-school days, besides wearing masks, do we have to do anything to like be? I can't really explain. We have to go through any sort of process in order to like actually. I don't know, but
to come into school?
Yeah.
That's a great question, Drew. So just to get in the door, we really want you to be healthy. So only healthy kids are coming to school. So you can help your parents. Your parents are going to do a check-in with you, and you can help them kind of, if you're feeling sick, we really ask you to stay home, which is hard because a lot of times, especially for older kids, you're like, well, I have a little bit of a sore throat, but it's probably a cold, so I'm going to go to school. But this year is going to be different. So that's one thing that is kind of your job for older kids. The younger kids, their parents are going to probably be the boss on that one. But if as 8th graders, if you guys can help with that. And sometimes it's hard because we feel like pressure that we need to go to school, or we feel like we have some work to do. But this is the year where we just have to kind of understand that we are dealing with a pandemic. So we have to kind of change our thinking about illness. So that's one job. When you come in, we're going to do a temperature check on everybody. We ask that your parents or someone at home checks your temperature too, but we'll check it before you get to school. So once you get through, then you'll come in and you're going to wash your hands, and you're going to wash your hands so much. It's going to be just second nature. So a lot of the transitions, you come into your class, you're going to wash your hands. You're going to wash your hands before you eat snack. You're going to wash your hands after you eat snack. You're going to wash your hands if you're going to do some group work and you're going to you do something with some manipulatives. You're going to just become experts at hand washing. You're going to keep some distance. So for students, we're really looking to try and keep 6 feet. It's okay if sometimes you're 3 feet away from people for short periods of time. That's okay. We know that that's going to happen, especially if you're doing partner work. That's safe because you're going to have your mask on. But primarily, you're going to kind of be really aware of your body and space, and making sure that you're giving everybody else some space. Everyone's going to have different comfort levels. Some people are going to feel like you're getting too close to me. And so we have to be really mindful of how we're making other people feel. And you're going to also, maybe that's how you feel. So you're going to maybe have to say to someone, you're getting too close. Can you back up? And I'm trying to think of some of the other things that are going to be a little different. So the distancing people, washing hands, and wearing that mask is going to be your kind of job, in addition to learning.
And I can add to that a little bit. So we have, in our building, we have cubbies, we have lockers, we have other areas to store your backpack. So when you go to those spaces, you won't all be going all at the same time. You're just going to follow the adults' directions on like a few students will be accessing those areas at a time. Same with our, in our hallways, we have water fountains with bottle to fill your water bottle. It won't be a whole line of kids standing behind each other waiting for that water fountain. It'll be a few students at a time going out. And we also, it'll look a little different in your classrooms because we are setting up, they're called plastic acrylic dividers. So it almost looks like a little wall that you can see through, but it's another barrier to protect you when you're also wearing your mask. Or if you're in your classroom eating lunch and your mask is off because you're eating, we can still have those acrylic plastic dividers on your tables and desks. And your furniture might look a little bit different layout in your classroom as well.
What is like Spanish and French gonna look like? Are we still gonna like be mixing with other houses, or are we gonna be with our class? Or
you will not be mixing with other teams. You will only be mixing with kids from your team. And in world language, it will be with your grade level. And then you'll go to whichever world language, you'll have whichever world language class, you know, you've signed up for. But it won't be two teams mixing together this year. So the classes will be really small.
About the thing with the acrylic piece of plastic thing dividing up the class, is there going to be just like one of those, or is it going to be like individual division between kids?
Yeah, I can't speak for every school, Drew, but I think that what we did was we ordered enough for different configurations. So each classroom teacher has different setups, as you know, and some have tables, some have individual desks. So what we did was we kind of asked the teachers to look at what activity they're doing, how the students are sitting, and make a decision if that is something that would help it. It doesn't have to be between each person, kind of like you see people at the grocery store and every cashier has one of those. So it's not going to be every single area, but it's an option. It's just kind of another layer of protection that we have.
Yeah, I was wondering, how are sports going to work? Are you going to only practice with the kids that are going on your day? Like if you were having a soccer practice, say, are you only going to be with your group 2 kids, or will at some point you be with the group 1 kids?
Someone else might have more information, but my understanding at this point is yes, for middle school sports, you would, if you're a Thursday, Friday, that would be your practice day. You won't come to the practice on your day that you're not in person. And at this point, I think that we're just going to do practices. There's not a plan for games, so you'll do those practices, and maybe you know, they'll make a plan down the road for games or scrimmages. But at this point, for middle school, it's just going to be that practice opportunity.
So one student said, if you do get the virus and you stay home from school, how do you tell that to your friends without feeling kind of funny about it?
So the thing about this with the virus is everyone gets viruses, right? So we're really trying to realize, and everyone will be so aware of this, that it's like if you go home with a cold, the common cold. So we're going to be talking about this. We can certainly talk with you in person. Our school counselors would be a great person in our schools to talk with if you're having concerns about how to share this with your friends. But really, we're all in this together, and we all are going to be working hard to make sure everybody feels emotionally safe as well as physically safe. And so we'll have lots of opportunities to connect and opportunities for you to connect with adults to work out some of those concerns that you might have.
And one thing that we all know about this virus so far is that some people did everything right and they followed all the rules, and sometimes they still got sick. And we're still learning a lot about how this virus works. So we don't fully understand. So it doesn't mean that you did something wrong if you got the virus. And we are going to keep helping people understand that sometimes it happens. We know we can do these strategies to keep ourselves healthy, but sometimes it will still happen. And it doesn't mean there's anything that you should feel bad about, because it's not your fault if you got sick.
Can anyone help us understand how lunch is going to work?
Mm-hmm. I'm happy to speak to that. So you can bring your lunch or purchase a lunch, but lunch is going to happen in your classroom, and you will, be in your classrooms. You'll be socially distanced. You can take off your masks when you're eating, but we're going to make sure that, we're sitting not near each, not more than 6 feet from each other. You're going to wash your hands before and after. But you'll be able to, chat and socialize in your classroom space with the other students that are in there. I'll just add that if you order a lunch, the cafeteria is going to bring that lunch to you. And I think that's the same in all the schools, but we can confirm that.
Yeah, that's correct.
So we won't be using our cafeterias to have lunch.
No.
Here, and a lot of students ask, is the school going to give me a mask, and what does that look like? So your schools are going to give each student a cloth mask, which is kind of like what I'm wearing and what you've probably found this summer. You probably have some kind of cloth mask that you like. So every student is going to get 2 of those, and those are yours to keep. You take them home and you wash them at night, and then you rotate and wear the next one the next day. So the cloth mask should be washed pretty frequently. They're like a piece of clothing that you're wearing. And if you think about it, it's kind of a germ catcher. You're coughing into it or sneezing into it or breathing into it. So it should be washed every day. We have extra masks at all of the schools. So sometimes we forget, even adults, sometimes we are on our way to the grocery store and we're like, I forgot my mask. So we have extra masks. So if you come to school or you go to get on the school bus and you realize you forgot your mask, that's okay. We have extra masks. And those are going to be kind of like the surgical masks that you might get at the hospital. They're disposable. So you could use it for that day and then you would just throw that mask away and come back with your cloth mask the next day. Each school is going to have different masks. So I know for Shelburne, our colors are green and gold. So we've got green and gold masks for our students. You're going to have to write your name in it because if anyone who's seen a lost and found knows, if everybody just drops their mask and loses it, we'll have a lot of green and gold masks in our lost and found. And you wouldn't want to put on a mask that you weren't sure was yours. So your teacher will help you on that first day, put your name inside your mask, and then you'll be in charge of keeping track of that.
But can people wear their own masks?
Absolutely. So if you have a mask that you prefer, and I have kids and I know they have their special mask that they like because of it fits or the way it feels, that's fine. So certain kids like masks that are kind of pull up on your neck. We call them buffs or gaiters. Those are okay. We do like them to have 2 layers, but if it's not exactly perfect, we'll work with you. So find a mask that works for you. That's what I even tell the adults. The best mask is the mask that you like to wear, because you're going to spend a whole day in it. So if it's not comfy and not something that you like, then it's not going to work for you. So we can help you figure out what mask that is.
When you are fully online, or the days that you're doing online school, how long do you think we'll be calls?
That is a great question. And I think we're still working out all those details and we're going to know more by the end of the week. What I can say is it probably will be a little bit more than it was when we had to do this last spring, because that was sort of a different situation. So probably a little bit more than that, but we're also going to have times where maybe you're working on something where you don't have to be online either. So you won't always have to be on the computer. We'll do a mixture of things. Okay. Wow. You guys have been great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Fabulous job.
I appreciate this because you are providing these answers and this help for all students. So we appreciate it. And we thank you for your time. And I know that your schools are excited to see you.
Right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone. Take care.